Nostalgia. Everyone has at least experienced some sort of nostalgia in their life, whether that be something you remembered from your childhood or a very memorable moment years back that you always return to because it gives you nostalgia. We tend to think of the past as an easier time when life also seemed better and more fun, especially during childhood and early teen years when we didn't really have to deal with yucky adult things like working a full-time job or doing taxes. Yucky! I don't want to do taxes! And because of this, we just want to live those good old days again and relive the things that we used to do when we were younger. So in this video, I want to talk about what I and so many other people who grew up in the 2000s did when we were younger, and overall talk about what makes the 2000s so nostalgic for us, and some of the things that were popular during this time, and things that came out too, and things that I really enjoyed when I was younger as well. Grab yourself a box of Yogo's yogurt-covered fruit-flavored snacks and your very epic Shrek 2 VHS tape, that's a very important part, and get ready for a very silly nostalgia trip. The 2000s were such a great time for television and movies. So many of the movies and shows that I grew up watching and loving all came out during this time period, and hell, I still return to them and watch them still to this day. For all of you early Gen Z nostalgia critic film bros out there, you probably know some of these movies from the 2000s that you might have grew up watching too. And what better movie or series of films to talk about that defined the 2000s the most is of course Shrek. Let's get this out of the way. Everyone knows Shrek, a literal 2000s icon. With the first film being released in 2001, it redefined animated films and cinema. As after this film was released, it inspired so many films from the 2000s and pretty much made 3D animation during this time the industry standard in animation, as so many other animation studios started pumping out 3D animated films. Shrek has had a huge influence in not only the animation industry but also pop culture and cinema, as the movie also influenced the humor that we tend to see on the internet nowadays. Clearly! Shrek was also the first film in history to win the Best Animated Feature award at the Academy Awards. This category was first established in 2001 and made its first appearance at the 2002 Oscars. Other films that were nominated that year were Monsters, Inc., a classic Disney Pixar film that we all know and love, and Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius. Yes, Jimmy Neutron got nominated for an Oscar. Anyways, after the success of Shrek, DreamWorks, the studio that made the films, ended up making more Shrek films, with Shrek 2 in 2004, Shrek the Third in 2007, and Shrek Forever After in 2010. Fun fact, Shrek the Third was the first film that I ever saw in a movie theater. I still got the tickets from that screening that night. I was a huge fan of Shrek back then, let me tell ya. Of course, I can't forget other iconic DreamWorks films that came out during the 2000s, such as Madagascar, B-Movie, Flushed Away, and of course Kung Fu Panda with the legend Jack Black. Kung Fu Panda is such an amazing film to look back at and watch again, but also Jack Black is just an amazing person and such an amazing actor as well. It was also in so many films that came out during the 2000s. School of Rock, Nacho Libre, hell, even Shallow Hal. But of course, can't forget Tenacious D, The Pick of Destiny. Holy fuck, I love this movie. Him and Kyle Gass fucking rock. I love them. I love their music and I love this movie. There are so many other movies that I can talk about in this video. Oh my god, the Simpsons movie, I can't forget about that one. Love that movie. Movie on the big screen. But right now, I really want to talk about TV shows, cause man, the 2000s were such a great time for television. And what better way to start off this topic than to talk about SpongeBob SquarePants? Right behind me. Every one of my friends during this time, and mostly everyone at school that I knew, watched this show. It is one of the most iconic cartoons from the 2000s. Even though it came out in 1999, it's close enough, okay? Shut up. And hell, I consider it to be the greatest cartoon show ever. I was a crazy fan of the show. When I was a kid, I had to have everything SpongeBob related. From SpongeBob coloring books, to SpongeBob plushies, toys, clothing, to even room decor. I was obsessed with SpongeBob as much as Patchy the Pirate was. Man, I really wanted to join his fan club though. Also, can't forget the wonderful and phenomenal SpongeBob SquarePants movie from 2004. Absolutely spectacular and is still to this day one of my favorite animated films. Such a fun watch, and every time I listen to Ocean Man by Ween, I can't help but get all nostalgic over the SpongeBob movie. Especially the credits. The soundtrack of that movie was also amazing. Although some nostalgia isn't always happy, as during Easter time when I was 3 or 4, I really can't remember, I encountered the most traumatic moment of my youth. SpongeBob's face being completely melted and caved in, outside, right in front of me during Easter time. Scary shit, I tell ya. That traumatized the hell out of me. Now for kids during this time, you were either a Nickelodeon kid, a Disney Channel kid, or a Cartoon Network kid. And of course, me being an awesome SpongeBob fan, I was all in for Nickelodeon shows. Another Nickelodeon show that I watched religiously growing up was iCarly. Man, that show was freaking awesome. Although the show nowadays is a little controversial to look back at due to the show's creator, he who shall not be named, and allegations revolving around him and how he treated his actors and crew on set, the show still holds a special place in my heart and was one of my favorites growing up. Separate the art from the artist, I guess. Also, I watched the iCarly reboot a while back, because of course I did, and it's not bad, but I haven't watched it in a while and kind of lost interest. And apparently that show got canceled, and I don't know, it just seems kind of weird how they just canceled it without, finishing up the story that they started, but whatever. Drake and Josh was another show that I watched a lot during this time as well, and probably the one that you all watching this video know about the most. Another show that I loved a lot growing up, but again, it has controversy around it, being made by the same person, he who shall not be named, and Drake Bell ended up not being a really good person and kind of a terrible human being. Yeah, look at all this. Yeah, see? Ruined your childhood just now, did I? Sorry about that. Anyways, TV was huge during the 2000s. Shows like Dexter, Heroes, which I never really cared about. I mean, I watched it like the first 2 seasons with my parents and I kind of lost interest, but they liked it. House and a million other doctor medical drama shows, Grey's Anatomy included. Fuck, that show's still going on to this day. Lost. And one show that I remembered quite a bit was Malcolm in the Middle. I mainly remembered the show from the main theme song that would play at the beginning of every episode, and that it's just such a recognizable tune that hearing it you immediately know what it's from. Not just that, but the show was downright funny and hilarious, and had a lot of memorable and awesome moments throughout. It's definitely one of the best sitcoms that came out during the 2000s, and is always such a treat to return back to. Also, can't forget that the legend Bryan Cranston was in the show as well, playing as Hal. What a goofy, silly man, I tell ya. Pretty funny to think that right after the show, he went straight to Breaking Bad to play a much more serious role. He went from a comedic role as Hal, who's a silly little father, to a serious role like Walter White, who has cancer and makes rock candy. Wacky! Man, you know what, looking back at it, I guess, he's not the boss of me now. Sorry, that didn't really make any sense. Man, just sometimes life is so unfair. Oh my god, like this song! Guys, like this song! Oh my god, like this song! Also, reality shows were pretty big during this time too. Ones that I remembered my parents watching quite a bit were Big Brother, The Apprentice, and Survivor. 2 of those shows are still airing to this day with new seasons, new people coming on the show with new challenges and competitions and the new episodes and whatnot. While the host of the other show ended up becoming President of the United States. Yeah, wacky shit indeed. Would have never thought in a million years. There are so many other movies and TV shows from the 2000s that I get so nostalgic over when looking back at them. But I think right now it's best to move on to another topic, that being 2000s pop culture and technology during this time. Alright, there was so much shit that happened during the 2000s that if I fit every single thing from the 2000s in this video, it'll be like 5 hours. So, instead of doing that, I'm going to be doing what I call the ultimate supersonic fast round, where I go through most of the popular things that I can think of from the 2000s in a short amount of time, just to, shorten down the video so it's not like an hour, 5 hours long, okay? Ready? Flip phones! Very epic indeed. Speaking of phones, Apple introduced the iPhone that decade, and it was touchscreen. Like singing, American Idol was very popular. I loved that show. I loved seeing Simon Cowell get pissed off at contestants and singers. The Y2K aesthetic was popping off during this time too. Bratz dolls, anyone? Were you an epic silly bands collector? I sure was. All of my friends loved these things. Nintendo? DS? GameCube? Wii? I had all of them, bro. I got a DS for Christmas one year. The website you're watching this video on? Old as fuck. YouTube's old as fuck, came out 2005. Keyboard Cat, Soulja Boy, Chocolate Rain, Numa Guy, Peanut Butter Jelly Time, Rick Rolls, The Birth of Memes, Gummy Bear, Crazy Frog, you name it. Emos? My Chemical Romance? Pretty swag. Speaking of which, Music was pretty big during this time. We got Outkast, Hey Ya is one of my favorite songs of all time, speaking of which, Black Eyed Peas, Rihanna, Avril Lavigne, Sean Kingston, You're Way Too Beautiful Girl, Miley Cyrus, Linkin Park, Katy Perry, and much, much more. Some of my favorites growing up were Pink, Lady Gaga, and Scissor Sisters. MySpace was pretty cool. Facebook too. Commercials were pretty cool too during this time. It was like that one that goes, 805. Enough! Whew, my god, that was a lot. Too much shit to talk about. But all of it is just too good to miss. And nostalgic too. You heard me mention YouTube and things related to technology and the internet a bit there. And growing up, the internet was crazy different from what it is now. Very different. Obviously, we still use websites like YouTube, but YouTube was much, much different back then. Take a look at this. This was YouTube in 2008, and this is YouTube today. Look how different it was. Man, I miss the old YouTube. Bring me back. This time was freaking awesome. Also, Windows XP was the superior operating system during this time. Don't at me. Just look at the nice grassy hill desktop background and listen to the nice startup jingle. Beautiful. Oh, I'm gonna cry. The 2000s were also a pretty big year for video games. Like I mentioned earlier, the release of the GameCube, Nintendo DS, and of course the Wii all came out during this decade. But other consoles like the Xbox, Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and the PlayStation 2 came out during this time as well. For me, I mainly grew up playing on the PlayStation 2, as that console had my favorite game of all time on it, The Simpsons Hit and Run. I would constantly play that game every single day. It would beat it over and over and over again. And hell, I still return to that game years later to play it. Last time I played it was like a couple of months ago. Such an amazing game, I tell ya. You know what else was a part of my childhood? Wrestling! Oh yeah, pro wrestling. Bro, if you were growing up during the 2000s and were watching wrestling during this time like WWE or TNA, then you would know how epic it was! So epic! Bro, watching WWE during this time was so fun and memorable. Wrestlers that I grew up watching were Rey Mysterio, my personal favorite wrestler, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, Randy Orton, Edge, Batista, so many more, Jeff Hardy. Bro, the list goes on, I swear. But of course, can't forget the man, the myth, the legend, the greatest of all time, John Cena, who was the face of professional wrestling when I was growing up. Fucking loved Cena. Speaking of which, did you all know that he released a rap album back in 2005? Bruh, not gonna lie, there's some really good tracks on there. My personal favorite being Right Now. I can't see this man, he's probably chopping onions somewhere. The 2000s were such a unique and interesting time, with classic movies and memorable TV shows coming out during this time, and how fast that and the internet was changing during this time. New music that defined the 2000s and new music artists coming out everywhere. Nostalgic and memorable commercials, video games, and trends that were popular during this time. It was a wonderful time to be alive through all of this, and all of it gives me nostalgia looking back at it. What a trip down memory lane. I know that I probably missed a few things that were popular during the 2000s in this video, so that's why I ask you, the viewers, to comment down some of the things that you remembered growing up during this time, and why you find the 2000s to be nostalgic. I'll probably make another video like this in the near future to go more in depth of certain things that I mentioned in this video, so make sure you like and subscribe so you never miss an upload. Thanks again everyone, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye! Bye-bye! I'm gonna go watch Shrek 2 on VHS.